Oh, Teddy King.
Dude, we gotta play that. Everybody, we're glad to have with us Jeremy Wurst on here with us tonight. He is the owner of Coyote Face Recording. He also produced and recorded our last record, Everything All at Once, and we're very excited to get to talk to him. We're going to dive into a couple of questions that you guys have and just kind of talk about the record and the recording process in general. Thank you for being here and listening. Hope you enjoy it. I got a question here that asks, what's the most difficult part of being in a band?
I think it comes down to just understanding each other's creative differences, right? Like if somebody wants it to go one way and somebody else wants it to go the other way, like how do you reconcile that? Like how do you work it out, especially nowadays when two of our guys are out of state and right?
Well, I think
that's a huge part of it. Yeah.
I don't think we have the same experience that a lot of bands have, just because I think the four of us get along so well that a lot of struggle is kind of avoided pretty easily. But we obviously there's still tension over things like you just said, like the writing. Like I don't know. I think we've avoided a lot of the pitfalls that make being in a band hard, except for like the financial stuff and time and all that.
I mean, we're fairly lucky because I think we are all like friends first, type of thing. Which kind of at the end of the day, I'm not gonna like not be your friend because you didn't like my guitar part or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think none of us take it personally when somebody says this could be better, right?
Yeah, I think it's a
good thing. Like, yeah. I mean, the hardest part of being in a band changes as the band grows, and for us right now, it is the distance thing, like that we all live in a different place. So that's kind of the current hardest part of being in this
COVID,
band.
Then distant.
Yeah, both of those things. Learning how to write while being apart, which we're still haven't figured out.
Yeah,
we're working on it.
What about you, Jeremy? What is your experience with that?
You guys, or with
with your own projects. I want to know, about your own projects. Like, what's the hardest part for you about being in a band?
And just observing bands, like
Like, where do you see the most conflict?
I think it's okay. So this is totally from someone who gets to be in a band for a little while and then leave. So, like, to some degree, I only get to do the fun part of the band with every band.
You're like an uncle.
Our band uncle, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
People have like a romanticized idea of how a band works without building the chemistry. Like you guys just said, you guys are all friends. You guys probably, if you make each other upset outside of the band, you guys have probably developed a communication method to communicate when you're upset or when you don't like something or when you do like something.
Yeah, we lived together for years, so you have to in that setting too, Like,
so sort of this weird, like, some people are like, oh man, the like guitar player wrote this bass part, like, oh, I'm so mad. It's like, but ultimately, if you're being in a band, the most important thing should be to make great songs. So ultimately, did it matter if he wrote it or not? And so kind of take that for what it is. Not that like your guitar player should write all of your bass lines, but it's like I just worked with a band last year and the vocalist wrote the coolest fucking bass line ever. And it's the whole backbone of the entire song, and it's awesome. And like the bass player was totally cool about it. Like there wasn't this weird like we didn't have to console anybody or like I wasn't like, man, they're gonna explode any. So like it's just things like that. Like being able to communicate ideas to each other, or like to be critical, like, hey man, like I really like the first half of your guitar part, but I really don't like the end of it. Like being able to do that, but that also comes with understanding how to give critiques and criticism. Like, so like for me, when I played in a band, with this dude, and he would like, I was the songwriter, and I'd show up with these songs and I'd be like, okay, here's the song. And then like the other guitar player would be like, I don't like that first song. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then we'd go through the 3 songs and he'd be like, well, I don't like any of them. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd be like, well, what did you write, man? Like, let's just work on some of your stuff. And he'd be like, well, I didn't write anything. And so, so then I'd circle back around and I'd be like, okay, well, let's try this first idea out. And like, he'd be like, well, I don't like it. And I'd be like, well, do you not like the intro? Do you not like her? You know? And like, he'd just be like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's the absolute worst feedback and critique you can give, because then it just made me feel like a bad writer.
Right.
So like, but like, I don't resent him for it. Like, I understand that he just didn't vibe with it. And that's totally okay. Like, since then I'm a better writer, I'm a better communicator, but like, now when I tell someone, like as a producer, if I need to tell someone that like maybe this best, or like, you also have to remember, like I have like tough conversations like, hey, like maybe this guy needs to play this guitar part for you. Like maybe your other guitar player needs to play it. And like kind of removing the ego from the room to some degree for like bands, I think is a really good thing. Like not that you should, you guys understand what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, totally.
Well, I think that leads into a good question that I get asked, and I think probably Justin gets asked all the time, is like, how do you decide in the studio and then also live who plays what for the guitar parts? I get asked that all the time. Like, I think a lot of people have this conception that it like you're either a lead guitar player or you're a rhythm guitar player, and that might be true in some bands, but like our band is not like that. So for the most part, like when we're recording, there's usually songs or riffs or like parts of songs that either I have, come up with the part, or Justin has. So usually whoever comes up with that part will play it. And usually that's probably a rhythm. And then the other person will work on leads. And then honestly, there's also parts where we, like we're in the studio and we need another lead, and it's kind of just like whoever's got the best idea at it. And there's some things too where I think Justin might have played some of my leads.
I think Alec played a lead on Hung Up, but like, okay, what a lot of DIY and or like, let's say non-LA and Nashville bands don't realize is like in LA and Nashville, there's like, you have a producer and you have maybe 2 or 3 people working on a song, and it's really about the best idea. And again, it's like not an ego thing. It's like but like all of us are like kind of punk rock, because like we get in the van and sleep on floors, it's like, so like working with a producer or like working with your band, it's this learning process, like kind of the hard way of like, oh yeah, like he's got great ideas too. Like there's no reason why we can't try him out, or at least that's how I feel, it's like, I think you guys have really great communication on, like, if anything, we had too many ideas, like, so it's like, but I don't, unless there's something I don't know, I don't think I got upset about anything that I knew of, like, or at least in a way that would like actually be like you would remember. Like, I don't remember anything. I remember us having a lot of fun, working a lot, and making an amazing record, and like trying lots of ideas out and just like having a ton of fun. So like, I think we did it right, but I guess like other bands, it's like learn how to talk to the other people in your band without hurting each other's feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, sorry.
No, go, Joe.
I think part of that too, it's not just about like how you communicate outwardly, but how you receive that communication, especially when it comes to like critiquing or like saying I don't like that idea or what, you know, you gotta come into it with like the right attitude, and like that's difficult. Like that's something that is built up over time. Like that's part of our chemistry. That like any of you guys can say anything to me, and even if it's like the most critical, you know, I'm gonna figure out a way to like receive it, with the best, best energy, I guess. So, yeah.
I think this last studio experience was more than anything like about all of us being able to like offer ideas to each other, and like I mean like even like in the writing process, like Justin offered me 1,000 drum ideas all the time, and he couldn't do it, but he would, you know, he'd give me this you know, whatever this is, you know, waving his arms, but like you know, it's
What?
like what's that? Yeah, totally. I mean,
What
like
did I do?
you would just
Oh,
do
I
this
see, I
at
see.
me like I'm supposed to understand it, but you know, we'd figure it out eventually. But that's the point we're trying to make, right? Like I feel like we were always ready to offer each other ideas and like offer each other criticisms when we didn't like the ideas. Like, hey, let's try it again. Like maybe something more like this. I don't know. I think a lot of that came through on this. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There is also a lot of trust, though. Like, I feel like you guys all trust me to come up with good parts, and I trust all you guys to come up with good parts.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
like, that trust, and then with the feedback on top of it, like, it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I think
It works,
like even
it works very well.
like the trust thing, the fact that like I was in the room for maybe like 4 of the songs that you recorded bass for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, like it wasn't like we had to be all sitting in there watching over to make sure, you know, things went right for everybody else. Like we were all either like taking breaks or in the house working on our own parts or whatever. And like the bass parts are sick. They're like one of my favorite parts of the whole record.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
And to that point, I think like some of my favorite like times of recording was when there were people in the room while I was working on stuff or whatever, and like people were offering out suggestions, like even lyrically, like Christian suggested like a lyric change on one of the songs, and it was like, oh yeah, that's a lot better, and I'm really stoked that like somebody cared enough to say anything about it, you know. So yeah, that's cool. That happened on like guitar stuff a lot too. So
totally.
Yeah. I remember I put my foot down on one of the guitar tones. It was like a wah pedal for like 45 seconds. I was like, no, for 20 seconds, maybe.
Oh, I thought you said you put your foot down and you did the
that's what I thought too.
No, I like lifted my foot off the wah pedal. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts too was also being like super well received when I wanted, like if I had a guitar idea that I wanted to offer, like it was really cool to like have that well received, and like not just why don't you stick to the drums, guy, you know, like get out of here, you know.
Get back behind the kit.
Yeah.
That,
well, we were close. We were close to getting to that point, man. Don't
say that. Don't make me feel bad. Don't make me feel bad.
We're like, we'll humor him this time, you know. Jesse Ledbetter asked us a question. 5 years ago, when we met him for the first time, he recommended an author to me. I got into that author 3 days ago. Very good. Harlan Ellison would recommend. Harlan Ellison. Harlan. Yeah, kind of weird name. But yeah, he like writes a lot of short fiction. But Jesse recommended like this horror story called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Haven't read it yet, but every other story I've read has been really good. So, shout out Jesse. 5 years later. Yeah. Maybe even 6 years. Who knows? Time's weird.
You guys want to move on to another question?
Yeah.
This one's probably mainly for Christian.
Yeah.
It says, where did the ideas for the album art come from?
I don't know. We always like work with my older sister, Josana. So essentially, I just like every time we were recording a record or gearing up to, I ask her to like send us a photo dump of whatever she's working on, and then I just kind of go through them and I pick what I like and I send it to you guys for feedback, and you guys usually say, yeah, that looks good, and that's pretty much it. Like there's a little more fleshed out process, but like it's a lot of just like what I think matches the vibe the most out of what she sent, you know. And like usually when I'm like looking through like this plethora of photos, I see one and I know right away like that's gonna be it. So like that's happened with Stranger here, happened with this one, and with Alternative Translation. Like it's like the other photos that like I really want the feedback from you guys for. But usually with the first one I see, it's not the first one I see, but I almost always know what the cover is gonna be right away. But I don't know. It's pretty simple.
That's
it's just like what I feel.
though.
Yeah.
Did she take the photo of the single artwork too?
Yeah. So all that single artwork is from her too. Yeah. And it all works really well together. I don't know, like the physical release looks really nice. She's a really talented photographer, and yeah, it's really nice. There is a funny story with the artwork. Just essentially, I didn't know what it was when I chose it. Like, shit, let me grab it.
If I'm not mistaken, Josana has done 100% of our artwork too, right?
Yeah,
like she's done all of it.
The only thing she didn't do that I'm aware of really is like, I guess we did. Yeah, some of the stuff like the pre-weathered stuff that was technically still weathered. Like, there's a photo that,
like from downtime,
a soldier like took of my grandpa in World War II. Like that's when we used. But yeah, pretty much all of our real releases. She's done.
Anything on Spotify or any of that is her.
But yeah. When I picked this and I had like a whole story for like why I think it matched the record, I thought for sure that this was like on the shores of Lake Superior on a very windy day. Like, you know, there's like just branches in front of the camera, but it's actually just like the railing of a deck. Like it's like looking down at a railing and there's like snow on top. That's not a wave, that's snow. And then it's like branches. So like when I found out how wrong I was about what I perceived this image to be, I was like, that's definitely got to be it now. Like, just like, you know, I thought it was cool.
I thought the same thing too, though, right?
Bad.
Like,
yeah.
Everybody I asked, everybody I asked says the same thing.
Yeah, I thought it was the same thing.
Yeah. So I think it just makes the artwork that much cooler to me. It's just like, see what you want to see, kind of. But I don't know.
Did you think it was waves, Jeremy? I want to know what Jeremy thought.
On the album art?
It's not waves.
What?
It's a railing.
It's a what?
It's a railing.
Is a wood railing.
Like a wooden railing.
Like that's wood railing. Yeah, like
okay.
Top down.
So we fooled everybody, right?
Yeah, we fooled literally everybody. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Optical illusion.
It's an optical illusion. Yeah.
Dude,
I think it works really, really well though, and especially on like the LPs. Like having this like bigger artwork in your hand is nice.
I almost wish that I wouldn't have known that until I got the vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh, did we ruin it?
Yeah.
Did we ruin it for you?
No, that's so crazy.
Well, I used to try to always hide stuff in our artwork, but I think this is almost cooler than that. Like,
was that intentional on her part?
I don't think she roasted me when I told her what I thought it was. She made fun of me, like, so. Really? Yeah, she thought it was clear what it was. So, because she took
the picture of it.
Yeah, so she knows. Yeah. But yeah, so.
Holy,
I don't know.
Dude. There's like a reaction vid for you for
yeah. Jesus.
On album art.
Another question. This is for Jeremy. Somebody wants to know, who is it? Let me see. Dawson Finger wants to know what your favorite track is on Everything All at Once, and also the Tiger Wine record you did.
I got it. It's definitely 90s. Or
nice.
Safe Travels.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like
wait, what's the actual name?
Safe Travels.
Safe Travels, yeah.
If you pulled that one out I would probably have a few for a few different reasons, but that one's like the second I heard you guys demo that before, I was like, this song is amazing. Like, and it wasn't in its official version. I just like, I thought it felt so like, it felt like I've heard it before without ever hearing it before. It felt familiar, like, and it's not a bummer, and it's like, it's so catchy without being hooky, if that makes sense. Like, we all love her, but like, it's got that Sheryl Crow. It makes you happy thing.
You know? I mean, she's there, right? Like, she's on that song.
Yeah, we channeled it. Like,
yeah,
it has this great groove, and I love that song, guys. And like, everything is so perfect too. Like, I love the slide tone.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
Like, it's like, we could have just like done a slide guitar and it would have been like cool, but like, I was so pumped. Justin was playing with that shallow water pedal and it sounded so weird. And he's like, let's do this. Like, and then maybe your Neil, everything was just, to me, is like so interesting. Like, I could listen to that song a million times. I think that song is so good. Do you guys ever put it out as a single, or was it like,
it's not a single.
Dude,
everyone I played that song for, they were like, I like the record a lot, but this song is the best.
Yeah.
So I that song.
I would like to do a video for that at some point.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Be cool.
That song is fun too, because I mean, like, Justin and I spent like 2 years grinding these songs out in my old basement every Wednesday, you know, and that one, I feel like that song went through the most iterations, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we reworked it 1,000 times.
If I'm not
I struggled. My bass parts felt so boring for so long.
That was my thing too, is like, for the longest time, I thought I had to do something on that song. You know, like, like I had to play a lead or something. And then I was like, just play the chords, you idiot. Like, that's all you need to do. Like,
that song is a perfect example of like restraint. Like,
Sure. Yeah, totally.
All could have ruined that song.
We tried our best for 2 years. Well, and that's why it went through the ringers, because we all thought, like, this is too easy. This is too simple. Like, you know,
keep going.
No, and then like, kind of just like, I love Tom Petty, you know, and then it's just kind of like leaning into that, like, oh no, this is legit, this is good, you know, like, lean into the simplicity of it.
I don't know, so that's probably my favorite, but I think I was actually just listening to the record the other day, and Dark Joy, I don't know what the new songs are called.
Oh, like the non-working titles.
Dark Joy is the one with the super heavy bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Or like, wow. Yeah. Okay. So it's got that synth in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
That song is, it's like, so, like, that song to me is like such a trip, because like it kind of like smokes in like a little bit with the synth and the weird delays, and then like it's kind of like you don't really know what's gonna happen. There's also that weird feedback, and like there's like the dum dum, but it's like, but not like in a cheesy metal way where it's like gong gong. Like it's got this like, and then it cuts out of the single guitar, and then the end is so heavy, and it has one of my favorite bass lines on the entire record in it too.
Yeah, we worked on the bass line for a while. Turned out really good. Yeah,
so good. But I just love how everything turned out. It's like heavy without having to like drop tune and play. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's heavy without having to fabricate heaviness, if that makes sense. But
I think we left the studio all thinking that was the worst song
Really?
Right? But like
Um,
now, like that I've been separated from the experience of recording it, I love it. Like I think it was just one of our older songs too, you know?
Yeah, it
So we're
was
just
old.
like the
That was
least
one of
stuff.
the first ideas we had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow, yeah. I mean, like, to me, that was like something more like '90s too, Safe Travels, excuse me. I feel like that was one of the same things too, though, right? Like Justin and I went through 1,000 iterations of it. We didn't know what to do with the original part. We slowed it way down.
Yeah, slowed it way down. Yeah.
Say your thing.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we sped it up, we slowed it down,
Yeah,
and everything in between.
Yeah,
Lot of
because that
shit.
riff was a riff I had for a while.
for a long
And
time.
we tried
yeah.
a lot of things with it. Yeah. Well, I love how it turned out, and I actually like. I think it's part of the thing when a riff is. I don't know if Justin, you feel this way sometimes. Like when a riff is mainly yours, you feel just like worse about it than the rest of them. Insecurities. But that's what came out to be one of my favorite things. And I've had a couple of friends tell me that that's their favorite, and that really surprised me. Like,
dude, yeah, that was maybe one of the biggest shockers of putting this record out was like seeing what people's favorite songs were, and
just the spectrum of it. Like,
yeah, big spectrum, but like Dark Joy and Ghost Tape stood
Ghost
out the
Tape
most to me. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't believe that people like
Oh.
those two songs a lot.
Interesting. So I got the most compliments on "I Will Not Go Like the Sun" and "Dark Joy." Like
Okay,
those,
yeah.
like which would like, two of them make sense, but no, I'm kidding.
it just goes to show picking singles is a crapshoot.
Well, yeah, because none of those songs that I just listed were singles, right? Like,
No.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's such a tough. Like, how do you know how something will impact someone?
And we're so
Yeah,
close to it. Like,
Yeah.
But I also like. Sometimes I like songs for not because they're like the catchiest. Is that that makes sense?
That's
I don't know. It's kind of a strange there's moments of songs on this record that I'm like, I think it might be on the two songs you guys didn't put on the record, but there's a couple moments on those I'm like, geez. And then there's a weird moment on the bridge of another song. It's like kind of goes Death Cab for a second.
oh
Remember
yeah, I
telling
know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember telling Justin when he was playing, I was like, that sounds like an old Death Cab guitar part. And like, you were like, okay. Like, but I can't remember again. And on top of that, none of them are the working titles. So I'm like, sorry, I'm like nostalgic now. I'm like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, going back to the moment thing, that was one thing we had made a point to talk about between each other, like between ourselves before we went into the studios. Like, we wanted to kind of create moments, within the songs, not just like a song, but like a moment that makes you like feel something, or a moment that creates its own like world for a little bit.
right.
Right. I think we did that. I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. One thing for me is like, I don't mind records that are like this. Like, I still listen to a lot of records, but like when it's just like left guitar, right guitar, drums, bass, like, and then there's just nothing else. Like, I think that's like a cool formula, but like that doesn't scratch the itch like I want it to when I listen to music. Like, I want to just like feel in like I want to like forget that I'm listening to music, and so like that. I'm always striving to do that, and I'm glad that you guys were willing to, because I'll have bands that come through, they're like, yo, like, we can't play keyboards live, so like we can't do keyboards on this record. And I'm like,
you totally can.
yeah, I mean,
You should. Yes.
it's tough because like you can overproduce, you can overcook something too, but like and you guys learned this and we all got to do it, but like I just want to throw all of it at the wall and then decide what is not working,
Yeah.
And then it always goes back to like, and another thing, kind of going back to that one question, like, because of that dude I played in the band with that shot everything down that I came to, I now have like, you can't shut an idea down unless we try it, and you can't shut down an idea unless you have an idea. Like, or at least like you can't shut an entire song down. You have to tell me what part of it you don't like. That way, like I know, or yep, I'm down to sit here and listen to all 5 different versions of the riff, because one of them will feel right and you'll know it. And that's like a really weird one to explain to people, because they're like, how do you know? And you're like, I don't know. There's like a moment when you do it and everyone goes, yo, like,
that's 100% true. Yeah.
I should have made it more romantic. Like, that's, but
I feel like part of what you said just a second ago about how, like, if you're going to shoot down an idea, but have nothing to replace it, I think that's like something that I've just taken into my life. You know what I mean? Like how are you gonna criticize ideas without any offering as in terms of like what to replace it with, And I think that's like also something that we've all been really good at, like, and like when you go back to some of the other questions, like what's the hardest part about being in a band? People are going to shoot down your ideas without any way to replace it. What like have something to offer if you're gonna be critical,
and that's tough sometimes too. Like sometimes you'll have someone in your band that's just like maybe a little insecure, and like like every band's different. So but I do think it's important to at least try it out, like my idea and your idea and your bass player's idea and the drummer's idea, like
exactly.
It can be too much, but like it's also like I'd rather have heard it, so but I don't know how we got there, but
well, you got to answer part 2 of the question, which is what is your favorite song on the Tiger Wine record?
Nice. Yes.
Mine or your guys's?
Yours.
Oh, I mean, same kind of deal. Like making that record with them was like as special as working with you guys. Like there's like a bunch of moments. If I had to pick something, I would say maybe Anteroom, which is the first song. I'd have to choose between 3 different, like Anteroom was sort of like one of the first I heard from the record, and I was like, yup, this is gonna be a heavy record. Like and it sounded our last called Wigwam.
That's my favorite.
There's something okay, I don't think I could ever remake a record the same way ever. Like I could never we were moving completely on intuition, and like there's a moment at the end of that song that is like Shane and I, like we did that record a little different. We did do a lot of the drums up front. We redid some drums later, but when we did that song was super open-ended. Like it was like the demo that I had was like it was just like a bunch of feedback, like and I had no vocal, and there were like a few lead lines in, so like I had an entire song to fill up with drums and percussion if we wanted to. So at the end of that song, there's like a standing bass drum section where he's got my bass drum up on a chair and he's like hitting it with a mallet. And like I had these room mics up and I was just destroying them with distortion. And so it like pulses the headphones and it feels like people are marching. And so like whenever I listen to that song, the joke was Steve's really into Lord of the Rings. The joke was it sounded like Helm's Deep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we kept calling that like in the Pro Tools session, it says the Helm's Deep section, but it's like, and then there's all this feedback and like it's just really, it's kind of this terrifying moment because there's no riffs. I think Hayden might be kind of chanting something. It's this thing. So like when I mixed that record, I had to take like a break from listening. It came out and I hadn't heard the record for a long time, and I went for a run, and just like I was just like running, and just like that song came on, and I just remember just like kind of I was totally zoned out, and I just remember I like what's that thing where like when you see something, you touch something, and it brings you exactly back to like how you felt at that moment in time. So that song has kind of a weird emotional attachment to me for like, and it's just like the song's just so good and shoegazy and vibey, and Hayden did a bunch of different vocal melodies, and it's just like I can't remember if I'd have to look at the lyric. That song might be about his daughter who had not yet been born yet. So like, there's also kind of that aspect to it too. I'd have to double check on that one, but yeah, that was kind of like the memory of like recording Justin and doing the double tracking and panning. And it, like, I have this like fond memory of finishing those drums with Shane and like showing it to the guys after and being like, and they were just like, we're never leaving you guys alone again, you know? But yeah, I mean, probably that or Anteroom. Anteroom is just a total ass beater.
Yeah. Wigwam though has got like, I don't know, just the percussion the whole way through is incredible. Like it's just...
yeah, and it's something else. Like Shane has like the weirdest ideas, and they just like totally work sometimes. But he was like a percussionist, like he was in marching band and all, like, so he thinks that way about and I love it because I'm all like, you know what we should do, like but so yeah, that was probably, I would probably say Wigwam or Anteroom, and then Dark Joy and Safe
Travels. Yeah.
You guys really just need to fix that. Just call it 90s. Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Like even on Stranger Here, we still call those like working titles.
I've always wondered this. Is it a challenge trying to come up with song titles after having a working title for so long?
I would say yes.
Like I can't imagine. It'd be like if someone changed the line of the chorus line of your favorite song or something. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like,
it is really hard. I think it's hard, and especially sometimes it's hard when the working title is actually a really good name, but you never considered that you could just call it the working title, and so you think you have to come up with something better.
Right.
Because there are a few songs on the record that probably could have been like that, you know.
I wonder how many of them stuck.
We were talking about shooting down ideas without offering suggestions. That's kind of what happened with this. Like Justin would send us a list of like possible names, and we'd be like, nah, about some of them, and you know, but without adding our own opinions. Sometimes it was definitely a struggle, but
there are
we did well.
5 with working titles. I think
there's definitely some working titles. I think Final Form. I
will not call it Sun was in this world. No, that
was Reservoir.
That was Reservoir.
Oh, right.
Which could have stayed that.
Like the Sun has been like the Sun.
Yep.
The entire time.
Yeah. And then Mach 7, I do remember like a really, really old.
Mach 7 was Moonlight.
It was Moonlight.
Yeah. I remember you guys had that picked out pretty quick though. Like
the Mach 7, yeah.
Yeah,
we picked Mach 7 in the studio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I remember suggesting that, but basically saying like, you're not gonna have this name. It's got to be this name. I've been thinking about this name for like almost a year.
Yeah,
straight up, like I remember calling my brother up and being like, "Tell me what a Mach is," because he's in the Air Force or was in the Air Force. Like he would know about that stuff. I'm like, I want to make sure it kind of makes sense because the song makes me feel like I'm in a space shuttle, you know. So yeah, I remember thinking like, I'm gonna suggest this name, and if you know, it's gonna stay. So
Yeah.
Well, let me
we
just
all are, son.
say bye to Jer
Yeah.
officially.
Yeah.
We love you.
Jared, tell all the people like anything you want them to know, where they can find you, all that crap.
You can find me on, I have a website, coyotefacerecording.com. You can also find me on Instagram. It's Jeremy_Wurst, WURST, or at Coyote Face Recording or REC. There's nothing else with that name. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out and talking. It was good to chat again.
I was
Brought back a lot of really good memories.
Really good memories.
Then it will have been a year in like 2 weeks.
That's right.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
crazy.
Right.
How long has it been since we ate dog food?
Oh, wow.
Hey strangers, to hear the full unedited version of this podcast episode of our Q&A with Jeremy Wurst, you can head over to our brand new Patreon page, which you can find by going to patreon.com/weatheredmn. And you can subscribe to any of the tiers there and you'll get access to that podcast. We've got a ton of weekly exclusive content and other fun stuff brewing over there on that Patreon page from all of us in the Weathered crew. Once again, you can check out what the Patreon is all about by going to patreon.com/weatheredmn. But we just want to thank you so much for listening and watching and checking out this video. We had a ton of fun getting to talk to Jeremy and reminisce about the making of Everything All at Once. We hope that you enjoyed it, that you had a good time listening to it. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed it.